Welcome to Up to the Minute. It is Tuesday, May the 12th. I'm Todd Duplantis. Glad to have you here with us. We've got your HCC news and information for the next half hour or so. Thanks for joining us here on Facebook Live. And of course, Brittany Pacheco, my co-host, joining us from her home, her nerd room. Good morning, Brittany. We're on through another day here.
We certainly are. Good morning, Todd, and good morning, everyone joining us on Facebook Live. We very much appreciate you being here with us. Be sure to go ahead and like our Facebook page if you already haven't, and to also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can also head over to YouTube, where we have thousands of videos at your disposal that talk about all HCC all the time. And also be sure to subscribe to that channel and hit that notification bell so you can find out the latest from HCC.
Thanks, Brittany. We've got a couple of special guests on the show. One of them, he's becoming a regular now on Up to the Minute, from District 5, HCC Trustee Robert Glaser. Welcome to the show, sir. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, Todd. Thank you for having the show.
Thank you. And we're going to be joined now by Dr. Patricia Dodd, and she's an instructor of English at HCC Southwest. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Todd. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate both of you being here, and it was the trustee who actually suggested having you on the show, because it's amazing to find someone who's been to a dozen countries, but you have been to more than 100 countries. And I know Trustee Glaser was on a few weeks ago, and he said, you got to get this instructor on the show. We said, no problem, and we're excited to have you with us to talk to us about being a part of is it called the Century Travelers Club?
Yes, the Travelers Century Club. I'm still, you reminded me I still need to put in my application for them.
And obviously it's over 100 countries to be in that. And I guess a lot of people may ask is, how do you find time to go to so many countries? Are you always traveling except when you're in lockdown here?
The thing is, you have to have a teaching schedule. That's the trick. If you're on a college teaching schedule and you get time off, then you can travel. That's the secret.
What I've read is you travel with a purpose, and you're inspired by human rights. Maybe you could talk to us about some of the places you've been to, but before, tell us about that inspiration on why you travel.
Travel with conviction and inspiration. Why? You mean human rights? Well, I guess probably... Well, I'll start with saying that probably the first book that I ever read was The Places That You'll Go with Dr. Seuss, because I do teach English. I remember my dad, reading that to me, The Places That You'll Go. And then I always studied all these places that I wanted to go. And then, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there. But when I first started teaching in Dallas, my first teaching gig at a proper college, and someone handed me an Amnesty International group and a book by Ann Roderick, who started The Body Shop, actually, which is a fair trade organization. And it's a book called Take It Personally. And it's more of a picture book than anything. It's about, fair trade, people that are actually getting paid for, goods that they produce, and they get a fair wage for things that they actually produce in country. But it really made me realize that, that people... I don't know, in the world, that they struggle, and you don't just, travel and take pictures and move on, but everybody has a story. And it's like the students that we have in our classroom, that everybody has a story. And so when I started traveling and coming back to the classroom and making the connections with those stories, it really deepened my teaching. And so I always make the connection of, I teach who I am. And throughout the years, when I've called roll, it's amazing that, if I know that I have a Persian in class, I'll see the name and then I'm like, Chatori, and the student just perks up. Or Merhaba, because I have a Turk in the classroom. Right. Or Seba, when I have someone who's from the Francophone area of Africa. And you start making those connections, and I see a Nigerian name on the roll, and I'm like, are you Igbo or Yoruba? And they're like, ma'am, how do you know about this? And it just really starts making that community in the classroom come alive. And we have the most diverse student body at HCC. And I don't know, traveling with a purpose. I don't even know how to answer that question. It just, I don't know, travel is a political act. And we're intertwined with culture. I don't even know how to begin to answer that question. I guess I'm circling around.
Well, let me ask you this.
Complicated question.
I know you spent some time in Jerusalem, and I was interested. You spent 3 days interviewing Mordecai Vanunu. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that. And that's kind of interesting. It seems like more of a job a journalist would do, but you were out there. And how did that go? What was the purpose of that?
Well, actually, my minor for my PhD is I study political riots and revolutionary violence. So Mordecai Vanunu, yeah, he's really a hot button. I'm surprised that you're a journalist. It's quite evident because you went straight to that point. Yeah, he blew the whistle on the Israeli nuclear program. He was working in the Negev, and the Mossad actually kidnapped him, and he was held in solitary confinement for many, many years, and he was under house arrest in Jerusalem. And so I went with Global Exchange the first time I went to the Palestinian territories. And so, yeah, I spent 3 days with Mordecai, interviewing him and working with him. And he actually was arrested. The last time I spoke with him, he was arrested for going to Bethlehem for trying to spend Christmas there, because he was actually Jewish and then basically became Christian after his experience with, the Mossad and all that, and being arrested. But he's an intense person, and I think most people that are
into a hot zone or somewhere.
Yeah, I've traveled in a lot of hot zones. I've been in Nablus. That place is surrounded by 9 checkpoints, and I've been in a lot of world hot zones. The territories, I haven't been there in quite a while. The last time that I went to the Middle East properly like that, I was in southern Lebanon, and I got a week before the Israelis bombed southern Lebanon. So if I had stayed a week later, I would have been a refugee leaving Syria. And actually, I was in Syria in 2005, and that was probably, if you were to ask me, my favorite place that I've ever been was Syria, because I got to see it before it was destroyed. And so those are my favorite, most cherished memories of Syria. Damascus was amazing. You would think that Jesus was going to walk down the street at any moment. I love the Middle East. It's my favorite area, actually. أنا أتحدث شوي عربي, actually. I speak a little bit of Arabic.
I know you, human rights has been a driving force for you, but it seems like a lot of folks traveled for relaxation, but you're traveling with a purpose to not only enrich yourself, but from what you said at the top of things, you're learning more so you can identify with your students throughout your career.
Yeah, and I think, traveling leaves you speechless, and then you become a storyteller. And, when you teach English, you teach stories. And one of my favorite assignments is to teach us a speech analysis, and I have my students research Nobel Peace Prize speeches and analyze them. And we have Jody Williams, actually. I think she's still at the University of Houston, and I met her at a peace conference years ago. And she won't remember me, but she, won a peace prize for, I believe, for her work against, landmines. And then Rigoberta Machu, I met her at a peace conference. And, you in the peace movement, it's very small, and you meet people like, Mordecai Vanunu. I've met Aaron Gandhi's grandson several times. I met Malcolm X's grandson. I've met Rachel Corrie. Her parent, not Rachel Corrie, but her parents, and Rachel Corrie was bulldozed down by an Israeli tractor. She was in Gaza protecting a Palestinian home. And so you just meet these amazing people along the way. I've met Noam Chomsky and have my book signed by him. And it's a small movement. And there's amazing people that do these amazing things. And it's a shame that our students aren't exposed to these amazing people. But, the best that I can do is, like I said, become the storyteller and carry these voices. And, and I guess that's my moral obligation. Sure. to connect these things. And I mean, travel is a luxury, and I kind of recognize that, but it's the way that I choose to spend my time and my money. And I live in a very consumer society, but I don't see traveling as consumerism. I see it as part of my human experience, and I want to live the life that wants to be lived through me, but I want to share that experience. And so I'm very careful not to like brag about traveling. And, you know, and I think living in a Western country, particularly in the States, it's not about counting how many places I've been, but sort of commemorating them and sharing them. And, you know, and then I think it was St. Augustine that said that the world is a book, and those that don't travel only read one page. And I really want to read the whole book. But not only do I want to read the whole book, but I want to share the book with my students. Right. And hopefully that if I can carry that flame, but it's like an Olympian, I want to pass the flame and let them run with it. And if my teaching bears fruit and they send me emails and let me know what they've done with that, and they start traveling and they start passing it on, then, you know, hopefully that's what, you know, like Gandhi said, you want to be the change that you wish to see in the world. And that's really what it's all about. And teaching's not just having students read a book and write a paper about it, but it's about the experience. And that's how we touch each other, and that's how we change lives. And I think it does start with one step at a time, but that means venturing out into cultures and experiences outside our own doors. And I always tell students, you don't have to have money to travel. You can travel in Houston and go to Chinatown. I mean, right now, and it's actually more imperative more than ever before, because the Chinese community is really suffering because they're being discriminated against. And, you know, and reaching out to other cultures is how we build bridges instead of burning them. I said a lot there. I apologize.
That's all right. You're very passionate and display a lot of conviction. I want to bring Trustee Glaser into the conversation. And Trustee, it must be inspiring hearing from a faculty member that has so much conviction and willing to share so much of experience with her students. And there's a lot of passion you hear from Dr.
Dodd. Indeed, there is, Todd. And I think she said it well, that you teach who you are, and you bring your experiences to the classroom, and she has experiences that no other faculty member has on our staff, and she brings these very valuable experiences to her students. And of course, we're one of the largest community colleges in the country with regard to an international student population. I believe we graduate more international students than any other community college in the country. So her experience with world travel and connecting with other cultures, and her human rights focus is a very valuable tool to bring to the classroom at HCC. And I'm very happy to see that she does that. And we are very fortunate for her to be able to bring that to the students of college.
Dr. Dodd, I know you brought us up to speed on Mordecai Vanunu, but I want to also ask you about, I found this kind of interesting. You crossed a river in rural Guatemala with a human rights group. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that, because that sounds like kind of a hairy situation.
It was a group called Rights Action, and it's funny because, well, my brother, he was always really extremely worried. My brother passed. He had AIDS actually, and he passed in 2012. And he used to always like email me, and he'd always have these frantic emails like, you know, where the heck are you now? And so I was kind of glad that I didn't have an email connection in rural Guatemala, because he would have like really like just lost it then. But the van couldn't cross the river. And I was always aware of like flukes, and thank goodness there were no piranhas there, but we had to cross the river, and that guy had a huge machete, and we just crossed it, and we had to like walk a couple miles to the village to talk to this rural community. But unfortunately, and that area, and you know, I hate to expose the Canadians because they always look so innocent. You know, people always say when you're traveling, you know, the big bad Americans, big brother, always act like you're a Canadian. No, the Canadians do like some horrific things too. As far as human rights atrocities, they're just little brother sometimes. I hate to expose them like this, but that particular situation is there was a Canadian mining company, and they were spraying cyanide into an open pit. And the villagers were basically, their children were playing in the poison. And so we were going there and looking at the community and some of the birth defects and talking to doctors and things like that. And so part of our mission was to come back and basically, talk to, basically expose, to go and bear witness. And sometimes we always say you have to go where the silence is and bear witness, because if somebody doesn't go there, and that's what journalists do as well, but also educators do it, because we come and we talk about these things in the classroom, because it's not an urban myth that these things happen. And as we all know that, and thank you for being part of the media, because it's not just fake news. And, we turn on the media every day and we see COVID, and it's extremely important. But, I have to look at alternative media to find out other things that are going on in the world. And part of the reason that I travel is I have to get out of the mothership to know what's going on in the world, because if I'd never traveled, I would be very limited in my viewpoint. And sometimes when I talk to people who have never been out, I'm astonished at their limited viewpoint. And I can't even subscribe to one political party or another because of the limitations of that. And, I realize it is a luxury and a privilege to be able to travel, but I also feel like it's a moral imperative that I share what I know, but it's also, I cannot, program people to believe what I believe. And it's not about a belief system. It's about sharing knowledge and helping people find alternative, viewpoints and find different pathways to finding knowledge on their own. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you've got to get out of your box. Yeah. And there's different ways of doing that.
Well, it seems like we're all learning how to get out of the box with being thrown into working virtually online all the time. We're all experiencing and learning.
But nothing beats getting out there in the field of experience. Nothing. Yeah. Getting into a river and crossing it and going into a rural village and seeing how people really live. I remember just, when I taught at the old college in Dallas, and I had my students out in the summer sun. They were out there just sweating, reading poetry in the middle of the summer. And they're like, Dr. Dodd, can we please go inside? And finally, when we went inside, and I said, I want you to feel that air conditioning, and I want you to really appreciate it. When we went inside, I said, that's what it feels like to be in most of the world reading poetry outside. Most of the world doesn't have air conditioning. Yeah. Most of the world doesn't have clean water. The water in the toilet bowl is cleaner than most of the world's water supply. And I think when you live in a Western country, it's hard to realize that COVID, it's a really horrible situation, but viruses have been around a long time. Cholera, typhoid, people live like this, and they don't have the luxury of going to a supermarket. So we have to, in our Western luxurious world, we have to put that in perspective. Yes, we've been suffering inside, but we've been suffering with air conditioning, refrigeration, supermarkets. Think of it when people live in the world with Ebola outbreak and they don't have all those luxuries. So, traveling helps you put that in perspective. I have not been suffering as much as my neighbors have in this outbreak. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little passionate right now.
No, your passion is enlightening, and it's refreshing to hear. And your students are certainly very lucky to have you as their instructor.
I don't know. You might want to poll them on that. Sometimes I'm a little too intense for them. They're like, I have to sometimes smile because I get very, they're like, we don't know if she's happy or sad, or, or somebody go, yeah, kids are starving in Africa. And then somebody will say, be careful, she's been there, and they're starving in a lot of places.
You're presenting a side that students don't normally get to hear, and you present information and you give them at least another version of the story, another alternate view. And we appreciate you being here and sharing your knowledge and some of your visits. We'd love to have you back on the show again. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Trustee Glaser, always great to have you on the show. Thanks for being a supporter and bringing Patricia, Dr. Dodd, on the show.
It was my pleasure to bring her experience to you so that you could present it to everyone else. I really appreciate you taking the time to highlight her and her experiences so that everybody knows what a valuable asset we have in the faculty at HCC.
She sure is definitely a valuable asset. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
And now I'm joined again by Brittany Pacheco. Some fascinating stories, Brittany. You know, I could we could talk for hours on end just to dig into each one of those stories. We're just kind of like the tip of the iceberg there.
Definitely. The world has a lot to offer, and I love to travel. So it was very interesting to hear what Dr. Dodd had to say about her travels and the people she's met, the different encounters she's had, and it's really fascinating. So we do appreciate her being here and to show us that perspective that most of us do not get to experience for one reason or another. I do agree it is important to open our minds and be aware of the things that are going on way outside of our backyard.
Absolutely. So, Brittany, we've got a couple of things going on across the campuses. I know we would be amiss if we didn't mention some of those. The HCC Visual Arts Spring 2020 Student Exhibition is going on. Just because we're not in the buildings and can't walk in an art gallery doesn't mean we don't have things going on. And this one is happening virtually through Instagram.
It is. And what a great use of the platform Instagram, because let's face it, it basically is a photo gallery of an individual or a company or whatever. So this is a great tool to showcase our students' work. And as a reminder, it is the very first time we have used Instagram as an HCC gallery. And so it's for our 2020 student exhibition, Good Vibrations. It's the non-juried exhibition featuring all studio classes from all 6 colleges.
And we also have a student film night, which will be not in the buildings. This is going to happen on YouTube. And it's happening Saturday, May the 16th. Selected work from selected classes. Again, student select works from the filmmaking program. They'll be showcased on YouTube rather than the end of the semester festival of short films. But for more information, you can contact Division Chair Michael Cohn at michael.cohn, C-O-H-N, at hccs.edu. And a special note, we're going to have both Catherine Fields and Michael Cohn on as our special guests next week to talk about, keeping these exhibitions and these juried art galleries online so that our students can still get their work out there, Brittany.
Definitely. I think it's a great opportunity to showcase our students' work and their creativity and their perspective on life and whatever it is that they're trying to express to us through their art. It's going to be great.
And, there's a lot of uncertainty right now as to where we're heading, when we'll be back in the buildings, when will that happen? That's still to be determined. But we can tell you that classes for the summer will take place online, and we're taking registration for summer classes and for the fall right now, Brittany.
Absolutely. That is very true. So students, you have the opportunity to register for both summer and fall classes. Summer will be 100% online. It's to be determined about fall, but don't let that stop you from registering for your classes. Your education is of the utmost importance, along with your safety and your health. So HCC is doing their part by making sure that we're making classes available to you this summer, again, 100% online. You can head over to hccs.edu/now to register for both summer and fall classes.
We have a virtual graduation coming up, and I know one person that's going to be participating in that virtual graduation, Trustee Robert Glaser, and you taped something about last week, didn't you, Trustee Glaser?
Yes, sir, I did. So hopefully that will play well during the ceremony.
Well, we're looking forward to putting that together for our students, and that'll happen, Brittany, on May the 22nd. And where can students go for more information on that, Brittany?
One easy place, Todd, if you go to hccs.edu/graduation, you'll be able to find all the information about the virtual graduation that's taking place Friday, May 22nd. We're having 2 sessions. The first is going to be our VAST Academy graduates, which, they've worked so hard for everything that they've accomplished here at HCC Vast Academy. And then the second will be the afternoon session for our 2020 spring graduates. So please be sure to, again, go to hccs.edu/graduation for all that good information in one place.
And while we're working virtually online, you can get all the information you need during this crisis, this COVID crisis, at hccs.edu/health-notice. That is for faculty, staff, and our students. And Brittany, there's one specific website that's been set up for students as well.
Absolutely. So students, if you look to, I guess, my right, your left, there's a little blurb that says student resources, and that's at hccs.edu/COVID-19 students. If you have questions about testing, financial aid, textbooks, you name it, it's going to be there all at your fingertips in one place. We've had to change some of our policies due to COVID-19 to better assist you. So if you do have any questions, be sure to utilize the resources page available to you. And if you do have a very specific case that needs to be addressed, you can head over to the virtual lobby form and fill out that form about what it is that you need answered, and an HCC team member will get back to you as soon as possible.
You know, Brittany, we've talked about this a little bit off the air, in fact, extensively off the air during some of our HCCTV meetings, but things are getting canceled right and left. You know, I saw this morning that Guns N' Roses canceled their European tour. I had tickets to go see Steely Dan, done, canceled. Tickets to go see the Doobie Brothers in the fall with Michael McDonald, canceled as well. How is the music industry going to recover from that? Well, you know, tomorrow on the show, we've got someone from the music industry to kind of give us an idea of how they're looking at things. A blues band leader, Sparky Parker, will be here to talk about his industry, which has really had some serious challenges. And Brittany, it doesn't look up for concerts happening really much in 2020.
No, you're right. But you've noticed that a lot of these musicians, artists, you name it, they've gotten together, you know, on their own to virtually provide concerts for us via either Facebook Live or on YouTube or just somewhere, you know, with a broadcast network. And I think it's great that they're still doing what they're doing while at home, and you get to see a more personal side of them versus their theatrics. So I think it's going to take some time to recover. I know my sister and niece had tickets to go see Elton John this summer, and that's had to be postponed for a period of time. But hopefully within, you know, some time we'll be able to go and see our favorite bands and artists, you know, in the near future.
Well, some of the venues are talking about selling 25% of the tickets and distancing people, which is fine if you can get one of those 25% of the tickets. And some of them are even talking about drive-in concerts. You know, that may become a thing, at least on the interim. Well, Sparky Parker, once again, he'll be here tomorrow. He's also a former HCC student, and he'll be talking about how musicians are dealing in this world of uncertainty for many industries. And of course, tomorrow on the show, HCC Police Chief Greg Cunningham will be here for his weekly appearance to tell us more about how things are going with the HCCPD, but also he's got some interesting perspectives as to what's happening right now across the country.
Definitely. And I look forward to seeing you all again, along with Chief Cunningham and Sparky. And to everyone who's stuck around for the show, thank you so much for being here. Again, be sure to follow us on all of our social media pages and head over to YouTube to subscribe. And also, it'll be a big help if you share this broadcast to your personal Facebook page so we can grow our audience. And lastly, last announcement I do want to make, HCC is a COVID-19 testing site at our East Side campus. And that information, if you're interested in being tested, is on our Facebook page. You do not need an appointment. You do not even need to show symptoms. This is open to the public. This is not specifically just for HCC students, faculty, and staff. If you are a community member, this is for you. So be sure to head over to our Facebook page to check out that information.
Well, thanks again for joining us this morning. Of course, thank you to our guest, Trustee Glaser and Dr. Dodd, for both of you being here. We'll see you again both shortly. And thank you for being here at Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.